An increase in gun violence reignites the gun debate. The left encourages political violence, and Joe Biden's economy is in chaos. I'm Yo Grabba Gabba. This is Cancel This Show. This is Cancel This, episode 32, recorded late July 2022. I'm your host, Yo Grabba Gabba. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything, like our Facebook page, Pavement Road Productions on Facebook. Email the show directly, pavementroadproductions@gmail.com. Subscribe, share the post, tell your friends, comment away on the bottom of the screen, on the bottom of the page there. Everything like that. We have a lot to get to. So I'm going to dive in here, try to do these again as frequently as possible. There's been a lot of stuff moving around, so hard to commit to, all the different times, everything. But I'm trying to get out at least a couple sports shows, and then we have some reality TV stuff come up here in the fall as well. So at least should have at least a couple more shows before then on here of Cancel This. So let's go ahead and dive in here. We'll start talking about the mass shootings that have been going on. So there's been so many mass shootings. My hometown got hit with one. There's been, there's one on 4th of July. There's one in a school in Texas. So it's 4th of July shooting in Chicago. There's a school in Texas. And there's so much, that so many things have been going on. I want to kind of break this down in a couple different parts if I can. Try to stay on topic, try to stay focused on this, and try to get the show, keep it to like under an hour. But so let's start with the things that always happen. Whenever there's a mass shooting of any kind, it's always some politician's job to talk about how, I want to end the mass shootings, I want to stop this, but we got to get rid of guns. And it's always the gun's fault, it's always the gun's fault. Well, a couple things. The AR-15 has been around for like a long time, like 50 some years. It's the most popular gun in America, and it's been used in some mass shootings, but a lot of times it's not used in mass shootings. Well, either way, when it is used in mass shootings, the gun's been around for a very long time. Like, it's very popular. And people have been able to use it for 50 years. It's been not like it's a new thing. So why all of a sudden is it being used? Well, it's not the gun's fault. Okay, it's not the gun's fault. The guns just don't all of a sudden decide that they want to start shooting people. And people all of a sudden didn't decide that they want to start doing mass shootings with the AR-15. They could use other guns if they wanted. They could use other, high caliber magazines, other high capacity magazines. But they've been using the AR, and other guns, lately. Why the sudden uptick? Well, a lot of times it seems to happen a lot in the summers. People are outside and people go shoot them. But I think there's a number of factors, right? So if you think it's a gun's fault, well, look at some statistics, because the guns haven't changed that much in the last several years, but there's been a lot of mass shootings. And still, if you look at just like on the streets in Chicago, streets in other cities, Detroit, New York, and in parts of the country where guns are basically banned, there's still a lot of shootings, like tons. And obviously, the person in Buffalo, they came from out of the area, more rural New York, to do the shooting, and it was racially motivated. So that's horrible. And of course, that was a big story because it was racially motivated. So whenever gun violence, quote unquote, is racially motivated, then it's the gun. It's the racist. If it's not the racist fault, it's America's fault because America's racist. If it's not racially motivated, then it's the gun's fault. So it's always one of those two things, right? If they immediately release, the identity of the person, and it's a white guy, and they immediately say it's a white guy who did the shooting, then it's America's fault. It's not the gunman's fault, it's America's fault. Now, if that narrative doesn't apply, then it's the gun's fault. And we gotta get rid of guns. But let's look at really what is true, right? You can't just, I mean, they always say we gotta get rid of guns, gotta ban guns. Well, shootings happen all the time. There was one in Copenhagen recently. You can't even have guns in Copenhagen, but somebody got one, they made their own. Heck, the former president of Japan was murdered with a homemade gun. Guy found some pipes and a piece of wood and made a gun. So if you want to do damage, you're gonna find a way. And the way things are with modern technology, you can have Amazon send you a package and you get it in 5 minutes, basically. So if you in the U.S. with the way we have with how wealthy we are and things like that, and technology we have, people can get guns whenever they want one without really even trying. So it's not the gun. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It ain't the gun. Well, what's the alternative, right? Okay, it's not the gun, so now what do we gotta do? Well, that nobody seems to talk about that, right? I mean, in the shooting in Texas, there's a lot of things that went wrong there. The doors weren't locked. There was no security. Like, we can send all this money. I don't want another dime sent to another country until all their schools, public facilities, places where people gather are secure with armed security guards. We can't afford to. We can send money. We can send billions of dollars to Ukraine. We can send billions and hundreds of millions of dollars to other countries, like yearly. And they do nothing for us. We fund Germany so they can defend themselves from Russia, and then we fund Russia to defend themselves against Germany. Like, it makes no sense. It's insane. We give so much money to other parts of the world, yet we let people come in our own buildings and kill each other. Like, we need armed security, and so that definitely does happen. Now, people say, oh, there's a good guy with a gun, never stops a bad guy with a gun. Well, it does. The media doesn't talk about it because it doesn't go into their narrative, but it does happen. It happens all the time. And just about every mass shooting is somehow ended with a person with a gun, because a cop or a person, a civilian or whatever, ends just about every single mass shooting with a gun. And you'll notice so often the mass shooters, where they go to gun-free zones, because they're chicken shits. They're cowards. They don't want to be attacked. They don't want to be shot back at, right? They want to play Call of Duty, but they don't want to be shot at. They want to just go shoot people. Right? The shooter in Buffalo had armor on and went somewhere where he knew people weren't going to be carrying guns. And there was one security guard. The security guard had no chance. Security guard opened fire, shot him in his chest. He had a chest plate on. And then he got killed. But there was only one person there with a gun. And they knew they were only, because he went there multiple times and scoped it out. And so there was only one person there with a gun usually. So if other people had guns and could shoot back at him, it'd be a different story. And of course, governor of New York goes and bans armor, because that's the problem. Because when you're getting shot at, you don't want to wear armor. Heck, if I want to wear armor, walk around the street because I'm afraid somebody's going to shoot at me, that's my right. We have to ban armor so the mass shooters don't use it when they're shooting at people, so that way the security guy would have shot him and injured him. Okay, because he's gonna follow your law. Like, that's the thing that doesn't make sense. You're gonna pass all these laws. You gotta ban guns. You gotta ban armor. You gotta ban knives. You gotta ban freaking nail files at this point. If people want to do damage, they're gonna do damage. They'll use a bomb. They'll set something on fire. They'll use Molotov cocktails all the time. All the time they're used as terrorist weapons. We'll ban stuff people don't follow your laws. Criminals don't follow the laws. Okay, so we want to say, okay, let's put armed security guard in there because people are going to break the law. We have to put people in there to stop against the law, to stop people from breaking the law. Not just say, oh, don't do that. It's against the law to go shoot people. Well, I think how many times do you think a mass shooter said, I was going to go in this gun-free zone and shoot 10 people, but I decided, it's against the law. I don't want to do it. Or I really want to go shoot these people, but I don't have a gun that I can. I have to go find a gun somewhere. If you want to go shoot somebody and a bunch of people and kill them, if you're that psychotic and evil, you're gonna do it. Doesn't matter how many barriers you put in place. Eventually, you'll find a way through it. If you really want to do it badly enough. So what else? Well, we have the police. Okay, well, we've had armed security guards that have run off. Okay, that's why the police defunding the police. The party of defunding the police are saying we can't arrest criminals. We can't lock criminals up. We have to take away money from the police, and we have to now let citizens carry their own guns because the police will protect you. Well, no, you're defunding the police. You're taking money away from the police. You're saying the police are evil. You're saying a black person seeing a police officer has a good chance of dying just by seeing a police officer. Well, that's not true. But just say it. Just take away what the police are doing and defund them. But then when a mass shooting happens, just don't shoot back. Just call the police. And if they show up an hour later and don't want to go to the building because they're afraid of getting shot, well, I think that answers your question. So citizens being able to shoot back is certainly better than waiting for a police officer to maybe show up and not be a coward. That's happened in Uvalde. They showed up. They were there right away, but they heard gunshots, so they're afraid they were going to get shot at. So they waited until they could get armor and all this stuff, so they could then go in. They weren't heroes, certainly not. But if somebody in there was armed and could have shot back, or somebody smart and knows, hey, I only have one gun, opportunity. Like in the mall shooting, guy came in and tried to shoot people in the mall. A kid came out with a gun, shot back at him, took him out, saved dozens of lives potentially. Well, there you go. There's your answer. But no, the police will do it. Trust the police. Yeah, okay. If you say so. And why the uptick? I don't even know if there really is an uptick. I haven't completely seen all the stats on that. But let's say there's an uptick of shooting. Let's say mass shootings have been increasing. Well, what have people been doing the last 2 years? They've been locked in their homes with access just to the internet and pornography and Netflix and video games, violent video games. They can't go out and interact with other humans. So they're locked in their homes. People who have mental health issues are getting more mental health issues. And then they haven't interacted with humans in a while, so they don't really... The video games they're playing or the stuff they're seeing on the internet doesn't really make sense. They're just going to see that stuff and be like, okay, well, you lose your sense of humanity when you can't interact with humans ever. Also, I'm not saying this is part of it, but maybe it is. Who knows? The increase in amount that we're drugging people, drugging kids, teenagers, all these all these hallucinogenics, all these drugs that are supposed to help with mental health or depression or ADHD, right? All these studies have been coming out saying that those drugs don't do as much as people think they do. But the side effects could be worse. They could be way worse than we thought. So we have people who are locked in their homes for 2 years with nothing to do but go online, go to websites, play video games, where they are violent, watch violent movies, can't interact with any humans, so you lose your humanity, and then you're on drugs, and you're either taking your drugs and they give you side effects, or you stop taking your drugs. And then we don't want the police to because we're gonna cut the police funding, so we can hire less officers. We can have less trained officers. Basically, anybody we can get can be an officer. And the officers themselves are like, yeah, I make like $50,000 a year. It's not worth dying over. I'll lose my job and do something else. I'll get fired and go do something else because it's not worth dying over $50,000 to $60,000 a year. It's not worth my life. Now, granted, you took the job because that's what you wanted to do, but they don't talk about that anymore. And it's toxic masculinity to try to be a hero. Don't be a hero. Or be a hero. Or save 20 children from a psycho. And I think maybe the final part of this, or there's probably even more factors, but another part is the copycats, right? So again, the guy in Buffalo streamed it on Twitch. shooting other people on Twitch because you want to be famous. Right? And then other people have done it, and there's been copycats. And every time you mention a shooter's name, they get the recognition they want. They get the fame they want. So many people, especially with the depression and all that stuff, and all the the drug addiction and all that. So many people know, and especially young people, they want to be famous, and they know they're never going to be famous. Right? And they see all these wonderful things, all these people with their wonderful lives on social media, and they want to be like that, but they know they'll never be famous. So the only thing they can do is be infamous. So they go ahead and commit a mass shooting. They go ahead and kill a bunch of people. And they can be famous that way. They can stream it on social media. It's a mess. It's horrible. And don't give them the credit they deserve. So many of them just surrender. Like, I remember back in the days, at least mass shooters would go down swinging. But they go in there and they just, I'm going to surrender now. Right? And they say, if that person was black, they would have got killed by the police. Well, that's not true. Okay, we just had another Black Lives Matter incident in Minnesota, where a person attacked the cop and got killed for his troubles. And they told him to stand down. He wouldn't stand down, and they killed him. So if you drop the gun, put your hands on your head, and surrender, like they tell you to, and follow their commands, you don't get killed. At least very rarely, much more rarely. And the Black Lives Matter thing was great too, because the person who was being attacked by the person who was killed showed up to the protest as, this person tried to kill my kids, tried to kill me, and you're mourning his death and protesting his death. And then of course they say, well, you're still alive, so who cares what you think? It's like, yeah, so if I got killed by him, you wouldn't be protesting. You'd still be protesting his death at the hand of the cops, but I'd be dead too. It's like criminals are going to break the laws no matter what you do, and you can try to deter them, you can try to stop them, but if you stop them and they don't surrender, then you kill them. Now you're a killer cop and blah, blah, blah. Now you're probably going to jail. So we have so many things backwards. Like so many things, like I said, I mean, in New York, the man running for governor of New York was attacked. And because New York has no bail, he was booked and released. So in theory, he can go out and do it again if he wants to. Granted, he got picked up on federal charges, but still, if it was up to New York, the man would be out back on the street to do it again in 5 minutes. Because the criminals have all these rights. We want to defund the police. We want to disarm the civilians. We don't want to lock doors. We don't want to put armed security guards in there. We want to send our money to other countries. But just take away guns. Make guns illegal. Yes, because that'll help. I mean, in London, when they took away the guns, they banned guns in London, there was a huge string of stabbings and machete attacks. So they banned the long knives and the machetes. And so people, the law-abiding citizens, turned in all their long knives and machetes, and then an armed group of thugs robbed the police officers that had the guns and the knives and the machetes. Because criminals don't care about your laws. They never will. But self-defense, all these people, you can't use guns for self-defense. Canada, you can't use a gun for self-defense. You can use it for hunting. Well, the whole point of having a gun is for self-defense. And the more riots, the more protests, the more stuff like that, right? I mean, they said people who were in what was it, Wisconsin or Missouri, maybe, when the protesters, BLM protesters came out, broke through the outside fence around their community. Like, it was a gated community. They broke the fence around the gated community and then walked through their neighborhood, like their street. It wasn't on their quote-unquote property, but it was on their street, and they were protesting. They already damaged property nearby. And the people came out with their guns, told them to get away from their house. And they get charged with a crime for defending their house? Like, you have property to defend. Did they shoot anybody? No. Did they kill anybody? No. They were just outside their house with a gun saying, stay away from my house. You can't defend yourself. The police don't want to defend you because it's not worth dying for them. And if they do defend you, they're not being considered a hero. They're going to be vilified because they acted in a bad manner. And the criminals aren't going to care about the law. They're going to do what they want, and they'll probably kill you and then get out right away. or you'll be dead and it won't matter. Welcome to America 2022. Everything's backwards. It's a bizarre world. And it doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon. Let's go ahead now and talk about the political violence. We already talked about the Lee Zeldin guy running for, he's running for governor of New York. He's going to replace Kathy Hochul, who's, the lieutenant governor who got the job of governor when Andrew Cuomo couldn't stop grabbing ass and killing old people. So, it was the grabbing ass that mattered. The killing the old people was fine. They didn't really care, but it was the grabbing of the ass that they didn't like. And ironically enough, any idea how before Kathy Hochul got her job as lieutenant governor, how she got her previous job? Yeah, a man couldn't keep his hands off women's asses. That's how she got her previous job. I feel like she just pays women to get sexually harassed so she can take people's jobs. But anyways, so Lee Zeldin running for governor. He's the Republican nominee for governor. The Republicans have a chance to win for the first time in a long time, even though Kathy Hochul won in a landslide, her primary, which is hilarious. She's a joke. And she's from Western New York. Western New York hates her guts. So that tells you all you need to know. Anyways, so the guy running for governor gets assaulted on stage at a rally. Kathy Hochul, of course, released his information, right, telling her supporters to go RSVP for his events and call him out on things that they don't like, right? So then one of her supporters shows up and tries to kill him, and of course she didn't mean that. That was not what she meant. Well, we talk about rhetoric, right? And political violence is so insane right now. I mean, it really is. There's been so much going around, so much political violence, and it doesn't seem to be getting better. It doesn't seem to be getting better. I mean, social media, 24-hour news, all that stuff, not helping the situation. And then you have the governor going out and literally putting out her opponent's itinerary, saying, go there and confront him. So somebody violently attacks him. Well, that's not what I meant. Well, and of course it's swept under the rug. It barely even, the news barely covered it. It's basically a memory hold already, which is crazy because if it happened the other way, if a Republican, let's say Ron DeSantis, puts out information about his opponent who's running against him for governor, and the person goes and attacks the person running against him for governor. I don't know who it is because DeSantis is going to win easily. But let's say he puts out his itinerary, go confront them about the issues you feel strongly about. And that person goes out and tries to kill that person. It'd be they'd be calling for DeSantis to be impeached and thrown in a gulag. Right? But if a leftist does it, it's fine. It's a crazy person, mental health. And it probably is. But the difference between a crazy leftist and a leftist is not too distant. It's hard to tell between the two of them right now, in a lot of ways. So, anyways, that's exciting. So, the political violence is of course, it's as it's been. It's getting worse. There was a poll that said, in 1997, how do you feel about race relations? And like 90% of Americans said it was, race relations were good. And now, look at 2021. It's like a third of that. Like a third that say race relations are good. Well, what happened? I mean, the only major things really that happened, quote unquote, major, were 9/11, which was huge, and Obama becoming president. And race relations might have been taking a hit with, Muslim extremist terrorists attacking the country. So that's certainly understandable, but, and not that it's right, but you can see where people would get that from. But the other part of it is Obama becoming president. We elected a black president twice. I mean, not only once, but twice. He was popular twice. And, he said it wasn't even a controversial, it weren't even close races. He won easily. And now race relations are worse than they've been in a long time. And, was there some white supremacists in there who were angry and didn't like him? Sure. But I don't think it's just from that. I don't think that just, because if there are a few white supremacists who are angry about a black man becoming president, that's not enough to switch racial relations. Because there's not a lot of white people going around killing black people. Lynchings aren't up. So what is it? What is the problem? I mean, the country was divided by Obama. I mean, that is what happened. If you don't vote for me, you're racist. It was just, and then people who are like, well, I don't like your policies. I don't like your socialism. I don't like your radicalism. Well, then you're racist. And it's just like, and back in the 90s, it was, don't worry about the color of somebody's skin, worry about the content of their character. And then Obama's presidency became, vote for me because I'm black. And race was the only thing that mattered. And I look forward to now, like, look what is condemned and what's celebrated. Right? So a black supremacist attacks a bunch of white people, and it's not even a story. The news barely covers it. A white supremacist kills black people, it's a national news story for months. Or for weeks, at least. Because America, writ large, is the problem. Because America's racist. It wasn't... when I was growing up, it was no racism. It was basically... There was a few radicals here or there. I remember interacting with some of them, and they were crazy, and they were fringe, and they were weird, and nobody took them seriously. Now all of a sudden, America is racist, and it's always been racist. It's been racist forever. Like, if race relations were fine, and now they're not fine, is that progress? I'm just asking. The progressives would say we're making progress. But if race relations were good, we got along with each other, and now we don't, is that progress? Are we moving in the right direction? And not only that, but of course, politics, right? Everybody's got a view. Trump was very, very polarizing, right? He definitely did not help to unify the country. So we got Joe Biden, who promised to unify the country, and is worse than Trump. Because at least Trump, who is not unifying the country, he was at least making America great, right? And you could say, well, that means Aryan. No, it doesn't mean anything. It means America was strong, had a strong military, had strong economy. Biden's done the opposite of that. He's made everything worse, and he's also polarizing. And it's political violence is not a one-sided thing. Antifa, BLM is, by the way, if you still think BLM is not a scam, you're not paying attention. Patrisse Cullors has a mansion in the whitest neighborhood in California from all the BLM money she got. So I don't want to hear that. It's a organization that helps black people. It's helped officially 0 black people except for the founders. Patrisse Cullors' brother and her husband got a crap ton of money too. But those are the only quote-unquote black people it's helped. It's enriched the founders. That's it. And of course the paid protesters as well. But what a scam BLM is. And Antifa, right? They take over. They burn cities. They took over an entire, like, you want to talk about insurrection? They took over entire blocks of a city in Seattle. It was the CHOP zone or the Chaz zone or the whatever. The party. Right? It was a block party. Yeah. Well, no police are allowed in this block party. Lawlessness. You're embezzling money, or you're extorting businesses in the area, and then that ends, and everybody goes back, and nothing happens. No prosecution, nobody goes to jail, nothing. Meanwhile, BLM protests or Capitol rioters from January 6th get thrown in solitary confinement for 2 years without charges. And nobody cares. Oh, well, because they did something bad. Okay, well, if the laws don't equally apply, it's very hard to live in the same country where laws don't apply. Where the Stephen Colbert, his 9 members of his crew go in the Capitol, they're asked to leave, they come back in and cause a ruckus, and charges are dropped immediately. They didn't spend 5 minutes in jail. You can't live in the same country if laws apply differently. And the political violence is again, there are some on both sides, but the fact of the matter is, if Republicans get attacked or conservatives get attacked, somebody shows up to Brett Kavanaugh's house to try to kill him, people don't even talk about it. Not even a story. And if it is, it's because, some crazy person did something, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, Biden wouldn't condemn it. Kamala wouldn't condemn it. Right? But white supremacist, neo-Nazis show up to a Turning Point USA rally, and Turning Point USA didn't invite them and asked them to leave, but couldn't kick them out because they're on public property, so couldn't kick them out. And The View says how, they invited them, they welcomed them in with open arms. Right, so, and then you got Ilhan Omar saying how basically that's to the Jews, in essence. An open anti-Semite, openly hates Jews, but nobody asks her about why do you hate Jews. Nobody asks Nancy Pelosi to condemn Ilhan Omar for things she says, but if you're on the right and somebody who Marjorie Taylor Greene says something crazy, she makes more sense than a lot of other people, but she says something crazy, guess what? We all have to condemn everybody who's on the right has to condemn Marjorie Taylor Greene. Meanwhile, the standards don't apply to Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib. Interesting. Because the left thinks the right is evil. The right thinks the left's crazy. The left thinks the right's evil. And so when there's a political assassination attempt, when somebody tries to kill the Republican gubernatorial candidate from New York, when right-wing crisis pregnancy centers are burned, it barely makes the news, and that's okay because they're right-wing. Like pro-choice psychos like Elizabeth Warren says we have to tear down and abolish crisis pregnancy centers because they trick women into not having abortions. I thought it was a choice. Crisis pregnancy centers say, are you sure you want to make this choice? And if they do, then they refer them somewhere else. So they're not going to do the abortion. But they give them another chance. They give them another choice. Hey, we can get somebody to adopt your child for you. Pro-choice. It's your choice. But we don't want you to have that choice. We want you to abort. We want 100% of babies aborted by the eugenicist Planned Parenthood. Meanwhile, Biden made the comment about a 10-year-old girl getting raped in Ohio, and she had to go to Indiana to get an abortion, which, by the way, isn't true that if you get raped as a 10-year-old in Ohio, you have to get an abortion in another state. Not true. She could have gotten it in Ohio. But they sent her to Indiana because they wanted to make a big deal out of the protest. They wanted to protest the Ohio abortion law. So they put this girl, used her as a pawn. And nobody talked about it. Nobody brought it up. And it turns out that the guy who allegedly raped her is a 27-year-old illegal immigrant who's may or may not have been living with the girl's mother. So it really depends, right? I mean, are we trying to prevent girls from being raped? Well, not if it's by an illegal immigrant, because we don't want him getting deported. That's the last thing we want is him being deported, right? Okay, so you're not serious. But the left thinks the right is evil. So if somebody from the left goes in and tries to kill somebody on the right, literally does kill somebody on the right on video, nobody cares. Because the right's evil and they deserve it. That's the narrative being pushed. I mean, where do you think this political violence start from? I mean, Trump gets elected, and Maxine Waters, the psycho, tells people to go to go when they're trying to have dinner, go attack them, go get in their face, go make things difficult for them. Right? Brett Kavanaugh is having dinner, and people show up to the steakhouse calling for blood. And he has to basically run out the back door with his family. And AOC cheers it, it's like supports it. Rioters burn down cities and attack people, attack police officers, attack people they think are on the right, and assault them, and burn their property. And BLM and Antifa says, well, it's just their property. Who cares? Well, if it's your property, would you care? If it was your family being threatened, would you care? And then not only that, but Kamala Harris bails them out of jail. So, I mean, what a unifying president. And Biden's a joke. I mean, he's a joke. He always has been, always will be. And he said he wasn't going to run for re-election. He was going to be a transformational president, taking things away from Trump and giving it to, back to the people, blah, 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 which is garbage. His people. No one he cares about is his people. Biden's not a president for me. He doesn't give two rips about me or my family or anybody who sees the world like I do. Biden's a joke. He's a scam artist. And you say, oh, with Trump. Here's the thing. I want my Biden supporters out there. I want you to give me one reason why you like Biden. You can't say Trump. You can't use the word Trump. You can't. Everything's worse. Everything's worse under Biden, including the economy, which we'll get to in a minute. But the political violence is not coming from the right. Anytime anybody sneezes in the wrong direction on the right, we're asked to condemn them, and we do. Meanwhile, the left can do whatever they want. Political violence, attacks, all that stuff, whatever they want to do. No big deal. Because the right is evil, according to the left. Right? If Biden wanted to unify the country, I said this before, if Biden wanted to unify the country, all he really needed to do, literally the only thing he needed to do, is condemn his side. But he can't because he wants the votes, right? If he was only going to be one-term president like he said he was going to be, which he's going to be anyways. There's no way he's going to be president in 2024. He's going to get reelected in 2024. If he runs, which he's not going to, even if he runs for a re-election in 2024, he's going to lose. Even Trump can beat him at this point. Depending how much fraud there is, of course, because who knows what they'd be willing to do. But let's just say, and again, the biggest problem with the left, and this is a fact, the biggest problem with the left is they can't take their wins. They're activists, right? Their whole lives are politics. Their whole lives are getting companies to condemn a law that doesn't exist. What do you think about the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida? It's not a Don't Say Gay bill, so I don't think anything of it because it's not real. Well, what do you think about the voter suppression law in Georgia? We're gonna move the All-Star game out of Atlanta. Yeah, that worked out well for you, Bob Manfred, especially when the Braves won the World Series and you had to present them the trophy. Yeah, that was cool. But that bill wasn't real either. That wasn't a real law. That was a lie. Stacey Abrams, right, says how horrible Georgia is, now wants to be governor. Oh, of course, she thinks she is governor. She never conceded the last election. She says it wasn't for voter suppression, she would have won. Oh, really? Easy. Well, I mean, Trump says that, and he's the big lie, January 6th. But Stacey Abrams can say it, and it's fine because she's a supermodel black woman. And by supermodel, I mean, ugh. But if Biden wanted to unify the country, it would be very, very simple. And like I said, the reason, I guess I'm kind of taking two different points here, but let me finish the first one. So if Biden wanted to unify the country, he would just condemn his side. When his side did something stupid, he'd say, stop being stupid. But he doesn't want to piss off his base. because he's a politician. He's not a leader. He's never led anybody in his life. He's never had a job in his life other than being a quote unquote politician. And all he wants to do is he wants people to vote for him and vote for his side, vote for his party. Not do what's best for the country. He wants to accumulate power and have his side win more elections. It's about defeating the other side. You can't unify people if your entire mission is to eliminate half the country, the other half of the country that you disagree with. If you want them eliminated and defeated, then you can't really unify anybody, because half the country is going to be your enemy, your sworn enemy. So Biden's not going to unify anybody. He can't. He's a joke. So, and I guess the biggest thing in all the, it's a perfect storm. Having a terrible leader who doesn't care about half the country, writes them off, and then they'll have a left who's got all the institutional power, and they live such pathetic lives that they have to be activists. Like, most of them don't have families, most of them don't have kids. They have nothing to do, middle of America. They have families, they have kids. The left has moved so far left. The centrist left is now pretty far left, and the far left is off the chart left. Because they had some power, and the biggest problem, and I think the biggest reason we're having these issues with political violence and disunity, all that, is because the left got some power, and they're run by activists. They're run by climate activists and abortion activists and socialists and all these activists, gay rights activists, right? We had Pride Month, and we had Pride Month, and we have another month that's, we have Trans Day of Visibility, and we have Lesbian Day, and we have Gay Day, and we have Bisexual Day, and Pansexual Day, and every day is a day for the LGBTQIA LMNOP club. And like even like world-renowned author, right? Oh my gosh, the woman who wrote Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling. Thank you. It just came to me. J.K. Rowling. Right? She says that women exist. And careful, I'm quoting somebody else, YouTube, so careful the censorship there. My last video got pretty censored too, which is great. But she says the women exist, and she's a TERF, and they hate her. They want to tear down everything she's ever said, because she says that men who think they're women aren't necessarily women. There's a difference between men and women, she says, which is like radically crazy. It's actually biology, but yeah, okay. But feminism and all these activist groups, they get what they asked for, right? Like back in the day, protesters would protest, they'd yell and scream, then they go home. Now they protest, right? They want to know what every company thinks of every bill that they don't agree with. And if the company doesn't say anything, the silence is deafening. Well, it's not their job to say something. It's their job to make a product or a service. Shut up. But yes, the silence is deafening from this company who won't parrot our woke ideology. Okay, all right. I guess the silence is deafening. I guess. Meanwhile, they get their wins on the left, and what do they do with it? They keep going, right? It's crazy. The right wants something returned to they want to conserve something. They want to conserve the way things used to be, right? They want freedom and live your life and I'll live mine and leave me alone. But the left can't have that. The left is, I don't like this, so you can't do it. It's like, I don't like meat, so you can't eat it. Okay. I don't think people should drive cars, so you can't drive yours. Okay. It's insane. The left has to have control over every aspect of everybody's life. It's a big problem. It's a huge problem. But the left gets their right, so the right gets their wins. We want to do this, we want to do that. And the Constitution is a document that we still use, right? It's a great document. It's made our country the most powerful country on earth. The founders were geniuses. They were flawed humans, because all humans are. But it's still the governing documents. And if something is in the Constitution or it's not in the Constitution, it is or it isn't. If you like it, great, vote for it. It's not in the Constitution just because you like it. Like, it's not in the Constitution just because you like it. Well, I like this, I want it. It doesn't matter what you like. It matters what's there. It matters what law is, right? If somebody, like a great example is Bill Cosby. Should Bill Cosby be in jail? No. Is Bill Cosby guilty of a crime? Yes, in my opinion. But I know he says my opinion. He always says BS, and it says in my opinion, even though it's complete BS. He doesn't have opinions. He just licks his finger and puts it in the air. Or somewhere else. But I think Bill Cosby is guilty of a crime, but there's a law that prevented the attorney from doing what the attorney did. And that's why his conviction got thrown out. They said, hey, you can testify to this, and we won't use it against you you can testify in civil court, and we won't use it against you in criminal court. So he testified, and then they used it against him in criminal court, which they can't do. So laws are laws. They're there for a reason. And just because you want something doesn't mean you get it, right? I said back in the day, the protests would protest, they'd go home, they might get a little bit of a change, but probably not much of anything, because there weren't as many executive orders, there weren't, they had to get through Congress, and Congress is supposed to be slow, and it's supposed to be very slow change. And if you want to change the Constitution, you have to do it through an amendment, and it's supposed to be a slow process to change things instead of just radical changing based on the whims of people in the day and age. Right? It's supposed to be a slow process, and if it's worth it, you'll put the effort to make a change. Right? But that's not how it isn't. That's not how it is anymore. Right? Now the protesters protest. They get what they want, and then they don't stop. Like the Fight for 15. There's so many minimum wage jobs that pay $22 an hour now. Minimum wage. Because Fight for 15, they got 15. Like, well, let's go for 20. You give a damn house cookie, they want a freaking glass of milk. That's how it works. So you can't just do that. But the left gets a win, and instead of taking the win and being happy, they have to push for more. They can't just be happy. They have to get what they wanted. Yay, they gave us gay rights. Now gays can get married like everybody else can. Okay, well, marriage is kind of a religious term. So change it to civil union. No, we want marriage. We want the word marriage. Okay, well, can't we compromise? No, we have to have marriage. All right, fine. You can have marriage. Cool. Now, gays can get married and trans people. Whoa. We said gays can get married. I know, but now, and it's just, they keep going. They get a win. And instead of taking the win, they push harder and harder and harder and harder until they get more. And it can't just be, they gotta get their win, but then they have to get more. Just keep pushing. You already got what you wanted, but don't stop there, because now that it's like the old idea of not negotiating with terrorists. I'm not saying the left is a bunch of terrorists, but it's the same idea. Why don't you negotiate with terrorists? Because you give them what they want. They don't just stop. They don't say, okay, great. Well, thanks for doing business with us, we the terrorists. We'll go back to being nice to you now. Like, no. And they know that you're not, they know that you're not going to just take that anyways, right? And you don't trust them, because you can't, because they show them they're not trustworthy, right? So that's what they do. They keep pushing until they get what they want, and then they keep going beyond that, because that's why you don't negotiate with terrorists. You don't give them what they want, because they're not going to stop. They're not going to take it and say, okay, thank you, have a good day. And that's why the left is where it is right now. That's why this country is where it is right now, because you negotiate in good faith. You say, all right, we'll give you a little bit what you want. And they don't stop there. They just keep going. And the rhetoric gets amped up, and it gets worse and worse. And now we're having Supreme Court justices' lives threatened, and political candidates' lives threatened, and prominent leftists, prominent Democrats are cheering it on. And that's where we are right now, again, in America in 2022. And finally, speaking of America in 2022, let's talk about the economy here in America in 2022. So, forever, since economy was a thing that was studied, a recession was 2 straight quarters of negative growth. Right? So half a year of negative growth was considered a recession. And recessions aren't necessarily terrible, especially when you have an overheated economy. And a recession sometimes is necessary because you messed up, now you have to course correct. But Biden can't say he messed up. He's incapable of it. So he has to take credit. So we're talking about how the economy is in chaos, right? So Biden's policies, right? I keep hearing, the president doesn't control the gas prices. Gas prices are almost triple what they were under Trump. $2 a gallon. It was way down than it was under Obama. It was $5 a gallon under Obama, and with Trump it was $2 or so a gallon, maybe $2.50. And now it's up over 5 in a lot of spots, sometimes over 7. So the gas prices are way up because, again, Biden wants to kill the gas and oil industry, and their profit. They're saying their profits are up and everything like that too, but the fact is they're not investing, and they have to. Let me put it to you this way. If somebody told you, I'm going to run your business out of business in the next 5 years, what would you do? If there's nothing that you could do about it, if they said, I'm going to kill your business in the next 5 years, you would make as much money as you can between now and then, wouldn't you? Because you only have 5 years to make money, so you're going to make as much as you can? But the president doesn't control gas prices. The president doesn't control gas prices. Well, it's weird because as soon as a new president came, the gas prices went up. So all of a sudden, the companies decided to be evil, right? Because the gas prices went up. Because Biden became president, all the companies decided to be greedy. It's weird how that worked. What a poor guy Biden is. All these companies treating him so poorly. But of course, he doesn't control the gas prices, but Putin controls our gas prices. It's Putin's price hike. Yes, Putin invading another country certainly doesn't help, but prices were going up way before then. And if we were energy independent like we were under Trump, it wouldn't have mattered. Because we could have been producing our own gas, we could have been selling to the rest of the world, and Putin wouldn't have had a leg to stand on. The war would have been over. He wouldn't have even had the chance to start the war. Because he started the war for 2 reasons. 1, Biden was weak, and 2, he had a bunch of gas, a bunch of oil. Probably gas too. He had a bunch of oil he could sell and make money and fund his war. So 2 reasons that it happened, both are Biden's fault. But the economy is in chaos. It's in turmoil. And we were told, this recession, this inflation is transitory. It's just temporary because we had to turn the economy back on and we had to pump money into the economy. So it's just temporary. Don't worry about it. It's not going to be here for long. And then we found out. First said there was not going to be inflation. And they said, well, there's going to be some inflation, but it's going to be a little bit and it's transitory. Then they said, well, it's not going to be transitory. It is permanent. It is here to stay, but it's a good thing. Because wages are up and this and that and the other thing. Right. So it's never Biden's fault, but whenever anything goes well, Biden's the one who takes credit for it. The gas prices were down 50 cents because and if you guys don't know this, if you're not paying attention, he released oil from the strategic oil reserve. Right? So let's say China attacks us, Russia attacks us, we get a terrorist attack. Let's say anything that happens, God forbid, we don't have the oil in our strategic oil reserve to help with that. All right, so now we have to try to beg for oil from other countries. Let's say Russia attacks us. We go to war with Russia. We can't get gas from Russia. We can't get oil from Russia because we're at war with Russia. Right? So now what are we going to do? We have to try to get it from the Saudis, or if Biden's not doing well with his relationship with the Saudis. So I have to ask them for oil. They're going to tell us to piss off. Like they have multiple times already since Biden's been president. Because Biden wants to work with Iran, and Iran and Saudi Arabia don't get along. It's very, very simple. I mean, Trump had all these peace deals that Biden tore up, shredded. The Abraham Accords, right? I mean, it's crazy. But our economy is in chaos. It's a mess. It's a disaster. But who cares, right? Because at least there's no mean tweets. But and the stock market's doing okay. It was down for a while. It's come back up a little bit, but it's still down from where it was. And things are certainly not getting better. But by taking oil out of the strategic oil reserve, a million barrels of oil a day for 6 months. He announced this about 6 months before the election, before the midterms. His plan is for the gas prices to come down a little bit because you're getting a lot cheaper. So gas prices come down a little bit between now and the election. Then people will vote for Democrats. And they won't vote all the Democrats out of office. Meanwhile, if anything happens to us, we're depleting our savings account. If anything happens where we need that oil in an emergency, we don't have it now because Biden wanted the political win. Because he's selfish. He cares about himself and his party and his agenda more than he cares about anybody else. More than he cares about the country. And it's obvious. I mean, look at what his son is doing, running around the world getting paid from all these foreign entities. All these foreign dictators are giving him money, and he's then funneling it back to his father. Look it up. I mean, just because the media doesn't talk about it doesn't mean it's not happening. So Biden cares about nobody but himself. The economy's in chaos. Everything costs more. Price of food's way up. Price of gas is way up. Price of transportation's way up. Transportation Secretary Buttigieg is talking about how, just get a Tesla. Oh, okay, asshole. Sure. I'll spend $80,000. Why not? For something that we don't even know how reliable it is because it hasn't been around long enough. It doesn't have a reliable brand name. And what if I don't want an electric vehicle? Because you can't travel that far with an electric vehicle. You can travel around town. That's about it. But that doesn't matter. Biden's doing a great job. He's doing a fantastic job. The economy is in absolute chaos. Everything costs more. People have more money in savings, but the money is worth less because inflation's eating it up. About 10% of what you have now is gone to inflation. So if you have $10,000 if you have $10,000 in savings, take $1,000 off that. Because 10% of it's gone. Take the $10,000, just flush it down the toilet. So you don't have $10,000, now you have $9,000. For doing what? For saving your money. For being smart. For not blowing your money. It's crazy. Absolutely insane. But again, Biden doesn't care. He'll get a cheap win. He'll maybe get a couple more Democrats elected in the spring, or I should say in the fall, in November. But the country will be way worse off. They can't recruit anybody from the military for multiple reasons. Well, that's not even something we can even have time to get into today. But they can't recruit for the military. They have no funding really for the military at all. It's very, very limited. All the strategic oil is gone. We're making deals with evil dictators. We lost energy independence. The economy's in turmoil. Everything costs way more. Savings is worth way less. Wage gains are eaten up by inflation because people are getting paid more than they were, except the very, 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 very bottom minimum wage. They're making a lot more, but they're also losing their jobs because, again, companies have to pay employees a lot more, so the price has to go up and they have to cut wages. cut employees, get rid of them. All kinds of mass shootings, all kinds of people getting killed. Drugs flowing across the border like crazy. Crime at an all-time high in many cities. But Biden, Biden's doing a great job. His approval rating is like 12%. Like, Democrats don't want him to run again. But the thing is, Democrats, the thing that moderates and independents need to understand is Biden is not the problem. Biden's not even the president. He's just licking his finger, putting it up in the air. Somebody's doing it for him probably because he can't even do that himself anymore. And he's going whichever way the party's going. So the fact that he was elected to be moderate and to be not even alive and to just do nothing and just be a figurehead of the government and not actually do anything. But instead, as we said he was going to do, he joined up with the Bernie Sanders group and he moved the party way to the left, further left than Obama. Obama was a far left guy. They moved left of Obama. They're like Bernie and Warren of the party. They're the moderates at this point. Biden's slightly right of Bernie Sanders, and only slightly right. And he was elected to bring things back to normal, to have the people want the news to be all about politics. They wanted fluff pieces in the news. Well, the media was never going to do that under Trump because things could not be good under Trump. They had to always be doom and gloom under Trump. But they wanted things to go back to normal, quote unquote. Wanted, the president not to tweet so much. Wanted the president to be not alive. And that's what he said. That's what he said he was going to be because he didn't campaign. And instead, he's become a crazy leftist. And guess what? That's the norm now. That's the moderate position. If you're a moderate Democrat, you're basically a Republican at this point. Because the moderate Democrats, the Democrat Party has moved so far left, you can't recognize it anymore. JFK wouldn't know what this party was. JFK would be a Republican today. Bill Clinton would basically be a Republican today. Or at least he'd be very, 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 very moderate. He'd be an independent. Because Biden was always a sham. And anybody who paid attention knew it, but a lot of people didn't. And that's a problem. But now we're seeing the truth. And now people's eyes are being opened up. And they're going to keep saying, January 6th. January 6th, the worst day ever. More people died on January 6th than 35 Pearl Harbors and 15 9/11s. Except that's not true. It wasn't the worst day ever. It was barely a blip on the radar. More people died during George Floyd riots and protests than during January 6th. By a lot. And it's not close. And all the white supremacists, quote unquote, that were in the January 6th, the longest sentence of anybody from the January 6th rioters is a black guy. Must be a black white supremacist. But everything's worse under Biden. And it's not Biden. Like, oh, Biden's a terrible president, we need to get rid of him. No. It has nothing to do with Biden. Biden doesn't exist. Biden's not real. He's a potato head. He's mush for brains. Other people are telling him what to do, and those people are really running the country, and those people are the actual Democrats. That's what the party is. If you think Biden's terrible, Biden's the center. Biden's the center of the Democrat Party. He always has been. So you think the country's in chaos, and the economy's in chaos, and all that, and things are terrible right now? It's not because Biden's a bad president. Yes, he's a bad president, but that's not why. That's the tip of the iceberg. Biden being a terrible leader is the tip of the iceberg. He represents the center of the party. So if you're voting Democrat, if you think this is terrible and you're going to continue to vote Democrat, you're the problem. I'm not saying Republicans are better. I'm not saying you should vote Republican necessarily. But if you think that Biden is the problem and if you get rid of Biden, everything will be better, you're wrong. It needs to start at the very, very basic level. Like I said before, like all this stuff with, we got to get rid of all the, there's trans issues and abortion and all these other things, all these other issues, gay rights. We don't need national laws for that stuff. We need state laws, and even beyond that, we need county laws. Like each county can be different. Like why are there blue pockets of deep red states and red pockets of deep blue states? Like Western New York. If you look at Western New York, outside the city of Buffalo and like one other town, all of Western New York is red. Like all of it, every county. There's like 8 counties in Western New York, and 7 of them are red. But the highly dense, highly populated areas are blue, right? And then other parts, right? There's other parts of the state, of the country. There's deep red states. I mean, West Virginia has a Democrat senator. West Virginia is the reddest state in the country, has a Democrat senator. So, I don't know. I'm just saying what I'm saying. So, if you get involved locally, local will spread to, San Francisco is like the Democrat Party. If you look what's going on in San Francisco and LA, that's what San Francisco wants to then take that, make it all of California, and then California wants to become all of the country. So it starts with your town, it starts with your county. Start there and then advance, right? But get involved with your school board, get involved with your town board, run for mayor. That's where it starts. Doesn't start anywhere else. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. You can like our Facebook page, facebook.com/PaperMoProd. Paper Productions on Facebook. You can email the show directly, paperproductions@gmail.com. Share the post, subscribe, tell your friends. Anybody who needs the information, anybody who's not informed. Like I said, I'll try to get this out a little more frequently. I'm hoping I can do that. But like I said, subscribe so you don't miss anything. We'll have more sports stuff coming out soon. We'll have more reality TV stuff in a couple months as well. So be sure to subscribe if you get all of it. If there's something that you like the politics, great. You like the sports stuff, great. Subscribe if you get all of it. Then just you can skip what you don't like, what it doesn't interest you. I'll be back soon. I'll be back in August with another show. So definitely subscribe and share the post. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of it. Thanks for everything. I'm going to try to also, by the way, also news in August. I'm going to try to get a guest on the show in August. Somebody to come in and give us, a little different opinion, different side, whatever. I'll work on that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, but we'll see what we can do. Just to add a little bit to it, add a little wrinkle. So 32 episodes of me is fine, but maybe one more, one with somebody else's voice on it would be a good thing too. So be sure to subscribe. Don't miss anything. You can like our Facebook page, facebook.com/PaperMoProductions. Email the show directly, paperproductions@gmail.com. I'll be back in a couple weeks or so, maybe sooner. Until next time, bye, Dan.